Good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to this edition of the Final Round Drag Racing Podcast. We've got the folks from the RVA Racing List down in Richmond, Virginia, joining us for episode number 36. We're going to be catching up with Kevin Orr at the bottom half of the hour to talk a little bit more about some of the racing that he's got planned with the TNT series and his Corvette. But Ed Brewster, our buddy, we talked about him a little bit when we were getting ready for Finger Lake Speed World, and he was up here with the RC Derbies. He works very closely with a group called Performance Dynamics down there near JMW HQ, and turned us on to the group with the RVA List, which races primarily at Richmond International, right near the airport down in Virginia. It's the track that, if you're thinking of that track, that's the one that they race at. Their first race of the season is coming up on Saturday. We're going to be talking with those guys about that, and also we're going to be looking a little bit ahead to their schedule. They race once a month through the course of the season. But before that, Jason Oldfield joining us here. Been a tumultuous Thursday.
It's been interesting to say the least, but hey, we made it. We're here.
To say the least.
Yeah, looking forward to talking to these guys. I find this type of racing really interesting. Kind of the heads up, first one to the finish line. Who's the baddest of the bad style racing? I really find interesting, and one of these days I'll, I guess, take my skirt off and maybe go try and race one of these types of races myself. Right.
The RVA list is split into quarter mile and eighth mile.
Right.
The quarter mile is it's your typical heads up race. The eighth mile, they don't show you the times, and it's direct to green, and both of the classes are going off the line on basically on street tires.
Right.
So, I mean, there's a lot. While it's still a top 10 list, like what you're probably accustomed to seeing on something like Street Outlaws, it's not quite the same.
Yeah.
And they're trying to do things to keep it affordable, which anybody who's trying to keep drag racing affordable, you got to applaud the effort, right?
It's not the easiest thing in the world to do, for sure, and I will say that in general what you see is that it starts out affordable, different classes, series like this. There's always one guy that ends up wrecking it for everybody, but we'll see. Hopefully they've been able to, essentially adjust their rules appropriately, basically to keep it in line. I did see that one of the rules was DOT tires, so yeah, I mean that's certainly one thing that can definitely help a lot, because you're going to build a car with 4,000 horsepower, you're going to have a hard time potentially getting it down the track with DOT tires. I guess I'm curious to find out what that means, though.
Well, it seems like this is a perfect time to welcome Brandon Terry, who owns Get Fast 1. You got a sharp-looking C10 pickup truck that you own.
Thank you. I don't know about sharp-looking. It's a little rough, but I get the job done.
It looks perfect. So we were just talking a little bit about what RVA is and where things are headed in terms of the rules and what you guys do and how it compares to other stuff that people might be equally familiar with. And the big thing that jumped off the page right off the top was the DOT tires. So I guess first off, what does the DOT tire mean, and what does that mean in terms of track preparation and actually getting the tires to hook up so they can get down the track?
Okay, so and I got Jason on here now too. So
perfect.
Jason's here, and Jason Blankenship runs our Super Street list, which is the quarter mile list, and I run the Ultimate Street list, which is the eighth mile list. Both classes are centered around street cars, so we do require the DOT tires on the cars, meaning that they have to have a DOT certification where they're street legal to drive. Now, I will say, slicks are a little more forgiving on a marginal track, so if you've got a lot of power and suspension's not quite there, the track's not quite prepped as good, you can get down faster on a slick than you can a drag radial. But again, we allow DOT tires. We do allow bias ply DOT tires, which are close to a slick but not quite a slick.
Mm-hmm.
But we're just basically trying to keep these cars street legal, be a car that you can see drive down the street every day. And a lot of these cars you do see at the cruise-ins and the drives and I know Jason's class, his Super Street class, they actually meet at our shop. They take about a 15-mile drive to the track every race before they race. So that being said, and then our class as well, there's a street drive challenge to where if you don't think a competitor has a street car, you can challenge it to a street drive, and he'll have to go on a street drive before they race. So we do require the DOT tires, because if any of them get pulled over and they're on a slick, then they're going to get a ticket. So that's one reason we require the DOT tires.
What else are you doing in terms of the rules to keep them more show and shine, cruise in type cars, and not get into that realm of being, more professional or at least drag racing focused entries.
Right. And, so what we do is we don't allow fiberglass front ends. We don't allow fiberglass doors. You cannot have Lexan windows. You cannot have fender exit exhaust or exhaust that comes out through the hood. A lot of the turbo guys, and a big thing now, even with nitrous guys, they want to have the exhaust come out the fenders, which you wouldn't see a car at a dealership with exhaust coming out the fenders. So we limit that. We have no forward-facing hood scoops. We make you have front seats, carpet, dash pad. Jason's class, the Super Street class, goes even further than that. They have like every single panel in the car that came factory. So
really?
It has little sail panels that are padded. It's got the headliner. It's got to have all that stuff too. That way we can
full street safety equipment is what we require. Everything from wipers to full safety glass, that type of thing.
So, it just seems it's interesting to me. How much power are we talking in these cars? Because you're talking about guys with turbos that want to run the exhaust through the fenders, but they can't. So, are we talking about major power? Some of the times we were kicking around before the show started, it seems like these guys are making some pretty serious passes.
Like I said, this is Jason's class, but the guy just got on the list. He's number 10. Last year he put up a time at the World Cup Finals, I believe it was. It was like an 8.95 in the quarter, and then
that was 8.95. I don't remember his mile an hour. I think 155ish maybe.
Right.
They did it at 3,800 pounds as well.
Jason, you're nodding your head over there.
That's
Jason runs on the list as well. He's currently number 2 on the Super Street list, and his car last year went at a 921 at 127.
927, I think 146, and I did it at 3,500 pounds.
Yeah, so that's some pretty good power, obviously. Those kind of ETs with that kind of weight behind it.
Right.
Now,
and,
is that
as far as Ultimate Street goes, we don't show times because a lot of the guys who run our class like the grudge race, and they run some races where you're not allowed to have shown your times before you race. So we don't put them on. But I can give you an idea. Like my truck. On motor, it makes 750 horsepower, and we spray 42 jets in the fogger, which is a 500 hit.
Yep.
So you add the 750 with the 500, and you kind of see what we're working with.
That's crazy.
Now, is that running on? Now, in your class, is that Super Street is the class that Jason runs, right?
Right.
Yes.
And then it's Ultimate Street. Is that what the other class is?
Correct. That's the class I run.
Okay. Now, in Ultimate Street, do you have to do the cruise to the track as well?
In Ultimate Street, you do not. You can trailer your cars to the track. However, if you go to race somebody and they think you're not a street car, they can put up $100. They can challenge you to a street drive. Where the street drive is off the top of my head, I think it's 15 miles.
15 miles. That's right.
15-mile street drive. They have to. Both cars, so if I challenge you to the street drive, I have to do the street drive as well.
Sure.
Both cars go, run the 15 miles, come back, go right to the stage lanes, and have to immediately race.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
Right. So it keeps the guy from going out and putting a 900 cubic inch, 16-to-1 motor with a 900 lift cam in it that runs on straight alcohol.
Full of concrete.
Full of concrete. From just jumping in there and switching a motor out between races, and so we can we know what these guys run. You can hear the difference in the motor stuff, and if you think the guy's not a street car, you can challenge him to a street drive. And if he completes it and you challenge him, he gets the $100 you put up.
Yeah. Now, that said, your truck, making 750 horse plus the shot of nitrous. Now, okay, I realize that the shot of nitrous, you're not going to use that until you get on the track. But is that 750 horse? Is that with pump gas, or is that racing fuel, or?
No, that's we run racing fuel in. Now, I could cut my timing way back and run pump gas, but we don't. I just run the racing fuel in it.
I still think it's pretty neat the way that it's set up, because it's mirroring all the popular the popular listing stuff, but
yeah.
they're doing it in such reasonable way. You know what I mean?
Well, and that's part of the problem with the way the show Street Outlaws really got out of hand, and I guess to a certain extent, I don't know whether it was just for TV, if the TV producers, Discovery, said, hey, we want to reel this in, or if it really was the Big Chief and the list that did it. But, it got to the point where those guys were literally just racing pro mods on the street. It's like, all right, I realize you're racing on an unprepped surface, but that's not exactly a street car.
Right, and then if you watch, the fans really don't respond to that. The fans want to see a car they can relate to.
That's right.
Anybody can take a 2,000-pound pro mod and put a motor in it and go fast.
That's right.
That's easy to do. But when you got cars like Jason's 3,500 pounds, the number 10 guy's 3,800 pounds, my truck weighs 4,000 pounds on the scale. When you see cars like that are going fast with full interior, the only lightweight components we allow are bumpers, hoods, and trunk lids. They all got OEM glass, the roll-up windows in them. When you see a car leave the line, like one of our competitors is John Dunn. He's got a Dodge Dart with a Hemi in it, and he leaves the line dragging the bumper half the time. There's some videos on our YouTube channel of him. And that's a bad ride, man. And we've been to several car shows around town, and he comes cruising right up in there with it. And then he goes to the track on the weekend and stands it up on the back bumper.
Yeah, that's very cool. Now, we did, before the show, we went to the website, and I think we potentially saw some pictures of his car. Is that an original Hemi car?
It's not an original Hemi car. There's a good story on that car. If y'all look up his preseason interview from last year, he talks about the car, and his dad owned a repair shop, and his dad acquired the car, and it sat outside for, I think, like 15 years, and that's how it got all rusty and dirty looking and beat up, and he just took the car and basically put a cage in it, put a motor in it, and put a rear end in it, and went racing with it, and just left it alone as far as the body goes.
Yeah, we were making notes of the patina on the car, and we both thought that was pretty cool. Actually, the fact that it still looked like this. Chris is showing a picture of the front end right now, and you can see where the rust and looks like the fender panel's been pounded out a little bit to try and get it straight again. But yeah, that's pretty darn cool.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. One of the races he put on the bumper, and then the car, when he hit the bumper, it kind of went to the right. So when he let it down, it hit the guardrail. And then he kept going, and when he came back, everybody was looking for the scratches on the car, and they couldn't find them because the car's so beat up anyway. So it takes patina to the max.
But that's some of the charm of what this class is. Let's take a quick look here. This is the rundown of the lists. Now, we talked about cars that we could relate to.
Right.
Dial it back to the conversation that we had a couple weeks ago when we were at Finger Lake Speed World, and we talked about the Mustangs and the different bodies that were over top of those frames. Number one, Jimmy B in the Super Street, 1979 LS-powered Ford Fairmont.
Yeah.
There it is right there.
There it is right there, yeah.
Nitrous outlets.
That's a bad ride. That's a sweet ride.
Running down through Jason Blankenship, who's on the line with us right now, Patrick Depew, Louis Dimitrizin, or something close to that. Matt.
Louis Demetrium.
Yeah. What's he got?
The red Mustang, that is a Coyote-powered car. It was actually a nitrous plate on it last year. Mm-hmm. He is going single turbo for this year.
Wow. It's kind of cool.
Yes, he was. I think he had took into the nines at the end of last year. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't be surprised to see that car make a jump straight from high nines to bottom nines, if not into the eights, pretty easily.
Matt Sangpeel, Joey Buck, Brian Lumpy, Keith Breslin, Zach Reed, and Adam Dean rounding out the top 10 on the current Super Street list. And then on top of that, we've got Brandon Tuck, who's leading the list for the Ultimate Street. He's got a Chevy Big Block powered Ford Mustang. It's a Tuck-built racing engine with an induction solutions nitrous system on it. Rich Tillman is next, Mike Ratliff, John Dunn, Don Huckster, Brandon Terry, Gene Motley, Pete Decker, Chuck Auders, and Charles Forrest, rounding up the top 10 on the Ultimate Street list. when you're figuring in who's ranking where, is it only on head-to-head? Is there a way to jump up the list based on your top speed when you guys have meets? Are you guys racing head-to-head? How's all that play out for a particular day and moving up and down the list itself?
Okay, so what we do is if you want a chance to get on the list, we have a shootout. As many people as they want can sign up for the shootout. So most shootouts we have between 12 and 20 cars in the shootout per class usually. So what happens is everybody goes on Facebook, they put the picture of their car and says, we want a chance to get on the list. So when they show up at the track, we basically draw cards. Whoever draws each other runs. We get down to the final person who wins the shootout. They get to challenge the number 10 car on the list.
Okay.
If they beat the number 10 car on the list, they are now on the list.
Okay.
Once you get on the list, you can call out the car above you.
Okay.
So if you beat that car, you get to call the next guy. You beat that car, you get to call the next guy out. We typically have 3 to 4 rounds of racing per night. So you can potentially move up, 3 to 4 positions per night. If you get beat, basically the guy behind you gets a chance to call you out. So as long as you win your races, you can move up 3 spots. But if you don't win your races, of course, you get a call out from the guy behind you, and you might actually end up dropping.
So you have to win the shootout, and then after that, you can do up to 3 rounds of racing. After that, just on call-outs. So conceivably, you're winning up to 7 rounds of racing. No.
You don't necessarily move 3 spots the same night. Generally, just from time constraints. Once you win the shootout, your last race of the night will be to race the number 10 guy. If you beat the 10 guy, you're now on the list. If you lose, you don't make it on the list. You just won the shootout for the night, no more, no less.
Got it.
Right, and then when you come back for the next race, you'll have your chance to call out the number 9 guy, and so on.
Now, you said in a normal night when you're having a shootout, you'll have 10 to 12 cars just in the shootout?
Normally we have between 12 and 20 cars sign up. Usually we'll have 12 to 16 cars that show up for the shootout. We'll have 20 sign up, and then you know how these cars are.
Yeah.
They're finicky. You got to put them. You got to take them to track. Something breaks. Something happens. You get there, make a test run. You break something. But most typical nights we have 12 to 16, 18 cars in the actual shootout to try to get on the list.
Wow. That's pretty impressive. And then is the rest
night we have at least 50 cars running between the 10 on each list and the 2 shootouts to try to get on the list. We typically bring about 50 cars to the track.
Wow.
Yeah, I can't believe there's that many. It's unbelievable. Now, while you're doing the shootout, do you have list racing going on at the same time that the shootout's going on? Is that the way you do it?
You want to answer that, Jason?
Yeah, I'll answer it. So pretty much every night when we get out there, we'll get together and have a big group meeting. We draw cards for lanes, and we also draw cards in order to line up the shootout guys to draw randomly unless they want to make a call out. But we try to mirror everything. So we'll run the first round of Super Street Shootout. Then we'll run the first round of Ultimate Street Shootout. Then that gets followed by the first round of List Racing Shootout, followed by the first round of List Racing of Ultimate Street. So you'll see basically 2 classes, but all in one round. You'll see both class shootouts as well as both class list racing, and we try to get off about 4 rounds per night.
Yeah. That's now Chris is showing some pictures of some of the competitors' cars, and I guess one question I had is, with regards to like suspensions and things of that nature, is there any restrictions as far as what you can do from that standpoint? I mean, if it's, let's call it still a stock body, but I mean, could you put a cage and a 4-link and all the rest of it as long as it's still a stock body?
Right. So each class has its own set of rules as far as suspension goes. In Ultimate Street, you can have like bolt-in front ends. So basically, if you want to put an aftermarket K-member, like a tubular K-member, it can bolt in. You just can't weld it in. You can have 4 links, ladder bars. Now, if you move your frame rails, so if you narrow your frame rails, move them in any, it's considered a back half car.
Yep.
And then you have a weight penalty for that, which I believe it's 300 pounds.
That's right. Yeah, 300 pounds. Yep.
So basically, a small block with a small tire has to weigh 2,800 pounds. If you have a small block with a big tire, you have to weigh 3,100 pounds.
Okay.
If you have a big block, you got to weigh 3,000 pounds. But if you have a big block that's tubbed up, you have to weigh 3,300 pounds.
And that's an ultimate street.
We haven't had any issue with weight because, like I said, these are all street cars. They got to have the factory glass, seats, carpet, dash. Most guys are way over the weight limit.
I mean, it's almost hard to get down that low.
Well, I was going to say, just in my car as a comparison. So, I mean, stock body. Now I have Lexan for the windows, but all the interior.
We're talking the Corvette, right?
You're talking the Corvette, right? So with me in it, Corvette, small block, back half car. I'm 2,600 pounds with me in it. So per the rules, I thought I heard that I'd have to be at 3,100 pounds with a small block back half.
Yeah.
I'd have a hard time adding 500 pounds of ballast. So, now you got to say, all right, I have to put the stock glass back, and I'd have to do that right off the bat. Now at this point, I'm looking for places that I can add weight. So, I might as well throw all the full interior back in it and do all the rest of those things because 500 pounds is a lot of weight.
Yeah.
And we did that, specifically to keep the race cars out.
Right.
Because, if you, like you said, if you've got to meet that weight anyway, you might as well have your seats in it, your carpet, your dash, your door panels, your glass. And that's why we did that, just to basically keep pro mods from coming in or guys with race cars and going, oh, well, let me just put a DOT tire in here and come try to wreck this class.
Right.
And again, we do a lot of things with these cars, too. We don't just race them. We go to cruise-ins. We go to car meets. We do different things like that. So these cars do get driven on the street, and they do go to shows. I just took my truck to the Speed Trend Society meet at Cabela's in Short Pump. We go as a group a lot of times to different races. Like we went to Dominion Raceway for a no prep event they had. And I believe like 7 or 8 list cars came to that.
Okay.
Then we went to Maryland for Street Racing Made Safe had an event up there, and they did a little cash days up there. And I think 15 cars went with us up there. So we do go to different things. So we like these cars to meet the requirements for pretty much anywhere we go. So that's why we, require all the things that we require. So when we go different places, there's no, well, you can't run here because you don't have that or you don't have this.
Right. Now, you had mentioned that you went to a no-prep race. So your typical races at Richmond they're a prep track, right?
Richmond is a prep track. I
think the best way to put it is we end up with typically what we would consider like a Friday night prep.
Okay.
Because generally we run with a open testing too.
Sure.
So we do have cars out there on true hard tire DOTs. So we're fighting against that at the same time. So it's not like every car that goes down is adding and laying rubber and, being able to be dragged and continuously prep.
Yeah, we'll run around a race and then they'll run just test and tune for whoever. And you could have a diesel truck go out there and all, and with big grippy mud tires, and he'll go out there and just rip up the rubber that was laid down. So when we go back out there, you'll have bald spots in the track. It's not like you're going to an event where it's radial prepped. I mean, so that's part of the challenge here. And that's why we like running at Richmond and doing it on days like that, because you can have a car that's set on kill, say at an event like in Maryland, at the World Cup Finals where anything will go down,
Right.
And you come to Richmond and you've got to play with the computer, you've got to play with the tune, you've got to ramp your power in, and it adds to it to make it more of the racer and not necessarily the car.
Yeah, I
will
will
say probably our hardest race months is probably July and August. The sun sets to your back as you would be racing down the track, and when we first get out there, the track will just be, we raced last time, I think the heat index was over 100 this past summer.
Right.
The track is so greasy, you can't put any power down for generally the first round or even the first couple rounds, but as soon as the sun goes behind the trees, the track just goes tight immediately, and you can almost throw everything at it.
Right.
So it's ever changing throughout the night when we get out on those hot nights like that.
Yeah, and I will say that I really appreciate that style of racing. It's not what I do. I mean, I'm a super gas racer, so I'm a throttle stop racer. But, it's funny because the way that those classes have evolved, you basically have guys making more and more power and putting more and more time in their throttle stops. And now what these guys expect is everyone expects every race to be a national event prep track because they want to be able to get their, 1,200 or 1,300 horsepower dragster or light super gas car down the track. And it's like, look, I mean, that should be part of the whole game, right? It's like, you want to build a 1,300 horsepower motor? Well, congratulations, good on you, but it's going to be up to you to get that down the track now. It shouldn't be the track's responsibility to make a surface specifically for you so you can get it down the track. But that's not the way guys generally see it. Generally what you hear is, the track is junk and this, that, and the other thing. And that's one thing I have to say about the street outlaw guys. I mean, they'll say, okay, yeah, it's not a very good road. It's one of the worst roads that we've raced on. But overall, no one's complaining about it. Everyone's racing on the same street. Everyone's running on the same surface. And it's whoever can tune their car the best to get down that patch of road or that drag strip ends up being the winner that night, and I really appreciate that.
Right. And I mean, for an example, Charles Forrest, he's our number 10 guy. He just got on the list. It took him 6 shootouts to get on the list, and he's by far has more horsepower, more motor than anybody on the list. But it took him 6 tries to get on because of track conditions and because you got to run 5 rounds in the shootout to win it most nights. Then you still got to run the number 10 guy. Which Charles has made it there before to run the number 10 guy and gotten beat just because you've already ran 5 rounds, the sun's down, the track's getting cold, he's got all this horsepower, and it's just hard to hide it, you know what I mean? It's hard to manage it.
Right.
So you live and die by your tune-up, really.
Yeah.
So we get guys coming there all the time, and, man, I got this car, it makes 2,600 horsepower, I'm going to run over top of y'all. They'll come out, and they don't make it past first round.
He had to win 34 rounds of racing in order to get on the list.
34.
Well, he had to make 34 passes. He had to win 30 rounds.
Oh, because he had to win the shootout multiple times.
Yeah, in order to get the shot at number 10. So just counting his appearances against number 10.
Right.
He had to make 35 passes and win 31 of them. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy.
And he's broke up a lot of stuff trying. He's put his car on the bumper, because like I said, he'll come out one time and it'll spin. The next time it'll put on the bumper, and he put on the bumper so hard when he came down, it broke the motor mounts off the dart block when it hit. So, like I said, it's ever-changing conditions, and you have to really change your car per round. You have to see the track, feel it out, walk it, see what other people are doing, and I know, like me and Jason, we'll both make changes sometimes in the staging lanes right before we race.
Yeah. Now, where did the idea for this series come about? I mean, how long has it been? How long have you had the series active?
We're going into our 3rd year with it. The first year, Johnny Davis, he runs Richmond Dragway. A couple tracks around had tossed around the idea, and one had started. I believe Cecil County had started a list. So Johnny thought it'd be cool to have it as track. So. He started the list, and like most business owners, we get a lot on our plate, and he started the list, and he was running the track, and the list, we were kind of running it amongst ourselves, for the first year. We had a ball, had a good time, went fairly smooth, but it started to catch on, and more people started to come out, and we at Performance Dynamics saw an opportunity to kind of take the lead on it, and relieve Johnny from trying to run the track and the race, and we took over running the series, and started doing the promotions for it, started doing videos for it, and then last year, the last 2 races of last year, we added the second class that Jason actually took his car off of Ultimate Street and moved it over to Super Street and started running that class. So the end of last year is when we added the second class. So this year will be our first full year with the quarter-mile class.
Okay.
How was the quarter-mile class received? I mean, quarter-mile's been a hot topic lately as more tracks move to shorter distances and tracks close. And people say they want to run quarter, people say they want to run eighth, and the numbers don't always align with what you're told. How did the quarter mile piece come about?
So, I'll hit it. Basically, we kind of started out with all the scheme arguments you see all over any of the other forums. We had some turbo guys saying, the nitrous guys had the advantage in the eighth, but, you can make both go fast in the eighth, but more from a street aspect, I felt like there was a group of racers that were missing out that could enjoy the list style racing, and most of those types of cars can go quarter mile. True, street driven could be driven to work on a daily basis if you had to. Mm-hmm. So it was let's stretch them out the back door. I think we have 3 or 2 quarter mile tracks in Virginia. Luckily, we have one right in our backyard. So we figured we'd take advantage of that, push them out the back door, and turn the clocks on with it at the same time. One of the biggest things we constantly have is the fans want to know how fast the cars are going. So most of the cars running quarter mile class typically were showing times anyway, for the most part.
Right.
So we figured that would be a good way to, kind of show how fast these cars were going and what they were capable of.
And the logic behind not showing the time is to keep it more, to keep it more honest. So if people want to hide their horsepower, they have that ability. Or if they want to lay it all out there, they can show how bad their pass is.
Yeah, so that's kind of a hot topic in itself, no time racing versus time racing. I'm a proponent for showing time. I'd rather show time. I put a lot of work in my truck, and, I'd like to show people how fast it goes. However, some of the people who run the class, like I said, they run other races where they don't allow them to show times, and they can't show times within a whole year. If they show times within a whole year, then they can't run the race. The reason for that is a lot of guys do grudge racing and betting. So they feel like if I go out there and lay down a pass, somebody's going to throw a number out there. Say I run an 8-second quarter-mile pass. Well, then I run next to another guy and I beat him by a fender. Well, you can assume that guy runs a low 8, or a mid 8, because you can judge him off my time. So that's why people don't want to show times, so they can grudge race and bet money and basically kind of sneak up on people in a way. Like I said, I'm a proponent of showing time. We've had this discussion a couple times with our Ultimate Street guys. It always ends in they don't want to show time. So as a group, we take everybody's opinion and we have just kept the clocks off in our Ultimate Street class.
Huh.
Yeah, and I honestly, I don't know what to think. I get why the guys don't want to show ETs. Being, I guess, an old school drag racer. From my standpoint, it's I really want to see ETs up on the boards, and I feel like at least
Correct.
For me, it takes away from the show not having the ETs, but I don't know if it does for the normal fan. I don't know if it really matters for them to be able to see the ETs. For me, yeah, it makes a difference to me, but and again, I get why the guys don't want to show it. I just don't. I guess I'm on the fence with regards to whether or not if I was competing there, I'd want my time shown.
Fans?
I agree 100% on that. Like I said, we've had that talk because, the number one question we get from fans, like Jason said earlier, was how fast are these cars? They know they're fast, but they want to know how fast they are.
Right.
And we can't really say because we're not, and it does make it tough. And it's a tough subject. But like I said, just the majority of the racers don't want to show the time, so we've just stuck with it. Now, we don't make people not show times in other races. So if they want to take their car and they want to run a different race that shows time, they're allowed to.
Yeah.
We're not strict about it. So they can go to other places and show times if they like. And I know a couple of our racers have. And people have been really surprised at how fast they were. Because it's hard to judge when you're at a track, and you're looking at a car go by, you don't realize how quick or slow they are. But when they have gone to some of these other events and showed times, it's really shocked people.
Is it possible?
I'll comment on a few things if y'all don't mind. The other good thing I think has worked for both classes is that the one like Ultimate Street doesn't show a time. So people are kind of taking a guess at how fast they think the cars are. So that brings the big shootout count every time because they think they got enough to take those cars based on what they see. Not based on the evidence of the time clock lighting up, where the other side of that is in Super Street, they're seeing how fast we are. So they think on the flip side, well, I know my car's faster than that. I'm going to come out there, and I know I can get on the list. Well, then the same thing still happens in both classes. They come out, and like we talked about earlier, they end up finding out you really got to race the track on a Friday night out there. Obviously, if you bring a fast enough car, you can come out and get on the list, but you still got to race throughout the night. But either way, both ways, like Brandon was talking about, the grudge racing, the great thing with the list racing is when you make it to somebody, and it's somebody you want to race, they got to race you. You can't dodge a race. So it doesn't matter what happens when you guys meet up, you're going to race each other. That's been great, and we've seen a huge following even with people's kids and bringing their kids out because they can understand heads-up racing.
Sure.
The light turns green, and the win light comes on. So it's very easy for a fan to understand who wins a race versus trying to pick a kid out and watch something like bracket race.
Right.
Is there a difference from a fan point of view? Maybe from a diehard fan point of view, there might be a difference. But from a casual fan point of view, the way you just described with somebody bringing their kid up to the track, a race that's decided by an eyelash when both of the cars are going through the lights in 9 seconds versus a race that's decided by an eyelash when both of the cars are going through the lights at 14 and a half seconds? Is there a difference there?
Typically, people want to see a fast car. When they come out, they want to see a car. The faster your car is, the more chance of it breaking loose, wheeling.
Sure.
Just different things happen. There's just more excitement the faster the cars go. So typically, from a fan aspect, they want to see a fast car. If they're paying to watch a race, they want to see a quick car. They want to see a car put it on the bumper. They want to see some action. And you don't typically get that with the slower cars. I mean, they're fun. I mean, we all started somewhere. I mean, first time I went to the track, I think I ran at 18 in the quarter. So we all start somewhere, but the faster cars are typically a better show. So that seems to be what the fans want to see.
Is it possible then to amend the finish lights so that it's only showing mile per hour? Because if somebody's way out on somebody else and they lift off and they roll through, they're slowing down. So they're still guarding their cards a little bit. I mean, is it possible to just show mile an hour and not show ET?
I'm shaking my head no. I'm shaking my head no because obviously from the mile an hour, if I'm way in front of somebody and I let off and I cruise through at 80 miles an hour, obviously everybody knows that he lifted at 3/4 track, right?
Yeah, and if you have a good close heads up race and they show their mile an hour and they weren't letting off, there's a lot of good calculators out there on the internet. Pretty much figure out who runs what. So that thought has crossed our mind with a mile per hour, but in the end, you can pretty much figure out what they run if you know their mile an hour.
Right.
We found one a couple shows ago.
Yeah, that's right.
we use it on the air.
Yeah, for sure. So your guys' first race is coming up here. Is it this weekend?
This Saturday at Richmond Dragway. The gates open at 10 o'clock. The track goes hot at 11, so guys will be making some test runs between 11 and 12:30. Our first drivers meeting is at 12:10, and then our first round is at 12:30. So what we do is we bring our GetFast1.com motorhome out. We set it up. We have the boards up showing where everybody's position is. They come over to the motorhome. We have a meeting, figure out who's racing who, how much they're going to bet. We hold the money until they race. Then once they all race, they come back to the next drivers meeting. We hand out the money to whoever won. The call-outs happen again, and then basically we just do it all over again.
I'm curious. We're not, us bracket racers, we're not generally betting except for, little amounts of money. I think the most money I've won on a race was $1. Betting.
Right.
What's the most amount of money that you've seen bet on a specific race?
You want to do that, Jason?
You're talking about the most that we've had so far for us.
Yeah. So, one guy calls out another guy. All right, they're going to bet. What's the most money that you've seen two guys bet on a race?
So we have in Ultimate Street, the bets have to range from $50 to $300. So far, the most we have seen the max bet, I believe, one time of $300. It also came with the Road Trip Challenge, which was completed. So the total race ended up going to the winner was the total pot was $400 that one race.
Okay.
Now over in Super Street, being that the cars are supposed to be this lower class, we lowered that. That one only ranges from $2,200.
Okay. So you're
really trying to keep like the grassroots stuff going that it's affordable to come out and do.
I think that's a really good idea.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say I think that's a really good idea to limit that like that, because you're going to get guys that are going to be like some guys would try and intimidate other people. So I think by limiting it like you are, I think that's a really good idea.
Intimidation,
right?
Like $2,000 bet.
That was our intention with the max bet rule. Was to not somebody wants to call somebody, they go, well, I'll race for $5,000. If you want to race for $5,000, I won't race you. We wanted to make sure that wasn't going to be an issue. And what me and Jason's jobs are when we're running the race is if one guy goes, well, I want to run for 300, the other guy goes, well, I want to run for 50, then me and Jason step in and go, okay, well, let's race for 150. Let's catch it in the middle.
Right.
And we negotiate it so that the race happens. And in the end, if they don't agree to it, we set them out. Okay, y'all are racing for 150. Either you race or you lose a spot.
Right.
And that happens. So we get the races off. There's none of that, well, I'm going to outmoney you, and that doesn't happen at the list. I mean, you see racing round after round after round with people. And most people don't want to bet a bunch of money. Make no mistake, this is for bragging rights.
It's right. It's bragging rights. Yeah.
I've got the fastest street car. That's what we're trying to prove. Who's got the fastest street car around? And it's not really about the money to us. It's about being fast and being the man. You got to beat the man to be the man, and that's what we're all trying to do.
Yeah.
How frequently?
Honestly, we've seen that over and over. Even our shootout. So we don't charge anything for you to enter the shootout. You pay your normal test and tune fee to come in the track, and it's free to enter the shootout.
Wow, that's cool.
Over in Ultimate Street, they do like a $20 buy-in if they want to. Whoever makes it the furthest in the shootout takes that pot. But these guys come out and they'll run the shootouts weekend. Every event we have, they'll come out and run the shootouts, and generally it's for no money. They're just spending their own money to go on the track. Because honestly, what we've seen is everybody just wants to come out and race. A lot of entry fees for a lot of races have kind of gotten pretty ridiculous and out of hand, if you ask me.
Sure. How frequently then does the number one spot turn over?
The number one spot turn over. Let's see. We had Brandon was at the top. Richard was at the top. Then Brandon. So that's two. Then at the beginning of the year, it was you. And then Pete Decker at one point, right?
Yeah, Pete Decker took it the first day out for me, so that was two there. Tuck, Tillman. I'm trying to remember if anybody beat Pete or who he lost the number one spot to. That wasn't Tuck. That was Scott. So we got 4 number ones last year.
Wow. So it moves around.
Oh yeah, a lot.
Yeah, I like that part too.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, it is cool.
And we've seen a lot of guys on the list make a lot of improvements this winter. So we expect the number one spot to be challenged fairly often this year.
Nice.
Over and over again. I mean, everybody wants that spot, and they put the work in, they put the money in, they put the time in. I mean, it's going to be pretty exciting this year for sure.
Well, that's one of the big things too. Going back, we were talking about weights earlier. We've really stepped safety equipment up across both lists, so that's constantly adding weight to guys. So they're having to go back and make improvements, trying to find every loophole they can in the rules to find places to cut weight because they're adding so much safety equipment. So the cars, if anything, they're almost safe. They're almost maintaining their weights. If they are cutting weight, it's not like it's any huge drastic amount.
Right.
Yeah, and I can speak from experience and just knowing the guys on the list, and without saying time stuff, most of the guys on Ultimate Street have picked up in the 8th mile a second to a second and a half from what they were at the beginning of last year.
Wow.
So when you're talking about 8th mile racing, that's a lot.
Yeah. That's...
and these guys from the beginning of last year to the end of last year picked up that much, and this winter they've done even more work. So we're expecting some pretty big things.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, the season sounds like it's in great form moving forward. You got your opening race here this weekend. I think it's great that you guys aren't charging an entry fee to get into the shootout, and that gives them a chance to get into the list with the heads-up bets. People are still able to make money up and down that top 10 as well. Now, another facet of the RVA, you can find more information if you just Google RVA List It's right on there. It pops right up. You got a very active social media and YouTube account, so you can find pit interviews and learn who the personalities are that are on the list at present. On top of that, Go Fast Racing or Go Fast One, and then Performance Dynamics are both major parts of the list and that whole program. And that's your operation, Brandon. Tell me a little bit more about that and how that all came together.
Right. So I started Performance Dynamics 15 years ago. I wanted to give the local guys a place to go and get parts. At the time, I was mail ordering my parts in, and it get delayed in the mail, or you get sent the wrong thing. It was just kind of frustrating. So I started my own speed shop to try to have a local place for guys to come get parts and hang out and talk, kind of like the barber shop, Right. You never know who you're going to run into in here, but we sell nitrous, we fill nitrous bottles, we sell racing fuel, we change tires, we rebuild carburetors, we got a full retail speed shop, and then GetFast1.com is our mail order site. So we do mail order. We've got guys who work here all day, and all they do is pick and pull and ship orders and take phone orders. So we sponsored the RVA List through GetFast1.com because with YouTube and social media, we figured that would get a pretty good reach, and that's the easiest way to find us is through our GetFast1.com website. And GetFast1.com, we take care of all the videos for the list. We take care of all the interviews. We come to the track with the RV. We're there to support the racer. We're there. If between rounds somebody breaks, it's nothing for me to tell one of my guys, hey, run up to the shop and grab a starter, grab a nitrous solenoid. We're coming to the track, getting ready to leave to go to the race, and people are calling me, hey, bring fuel with you. I need 116. I need 110, spark plugs. So we don't just sponsor. We really are involved in it. We want to see these guys do good. We want our local racing community to be known and have a name, and we want these guys to get some recognition for the hard work they put into these cars and the time they spend. So it's not just a sponsorship opportunity for us. It's really to try to grow the racing community here. And thus far, it's been working. We've got more and more races that are just popping up left and right for street cars, no prep stuff. We got Dot 93s doing Miles of Mayhem, and we're partnered with them. So basically, they're going to meet at Richmond Dragway, make passes, and they're going to drive to Colonial Beach, which is roughly, 60 miles away or 100 miles away. And then they're going to...
Yeah, there you go. So it's about 60 miles away. Checkpoints, it's going to be a 100-mile drive. No trailers.
Right. So it's so we've had a ton of this stuff pop up. And the more cars you have in a community that are set up around this street-style car, street racing car that are street legal, the more events like this you can do, and the more pool of cars you have to choose from. So we've really tried to just revitalize the racing community and the streetcar community around our area, and it seems to be working. The customers are there; they're behind us. The community's behind us. Johnny Davis at the racetrack, he's behind us. Jason, he stepped up huge to help me with this list. Without him, there would be no way I could keep up with all the Facebook questions and feeds, and so it's really been a community effort here. GetFast1.com is a big sponsor for it, but that's just a little bit of what's happening. Behind the scenes, there's so many people. Jennifer Martin, she volunteers her time. She does all the live feeds when we're at the track. Matt Payne, he helps with Super Street. Then I got Donald Matthews. He helps me with the Ultimate Street. Like when I'm racing, he's sitting there writing down who's winning. So when I get back, we know who's who. So we have tons of people that have supported this program and gotten behind it, and that's why it's been so successful.
Everybody's volunteering. Even the racers. If somebody's car goes down or they can't make a race, they'll just come out to be there and volunteer their time any way they can to help get the show off.
Yeah, Steve Verdone, he's helped us when his car was down. He came out. He helped us organize and get people in the lanes and line them up. It's really been a community thing, and it's been awesome to see. Everybody here is, of course, when you race somebody, you want to beat them. There's no doubt about it. But in the pits, man, we're all buddies. We're helping each other out in our cars. We do. If I didn't have a race one round, somebody needed a starter, I'd pull it off my truck and give it to them so they can make the next round. That's what we got going on here. It's pretty awesome.
Well, I don't think there's a lot of racers out there that wouldn't try to do that on a level like this, running on the local level and trying to inject some life back into the racing community. Certainly, we applaud that effort, and it's good to hear that it's going well. We wish you the best this weekend with the race coming up, and we absolutely look forward to hearing from you through the course of the summer, especially with the number of events that you guys have. When some people start moving up and down the top 10 lists for the RVA, hopefully you guys will be willing to keep in touch with us on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And any of the racers on the list, I'd be more than happy to sit down and talk with y'all and
all right.
do interviews.
Cool.
We encourage that. I mean, it's something pretty cool.
I'm all for it. I think that's awesome. You guys are doing a good thing. Usually this is the point where we ask you who helps keep the series going, but you ran through the list of volunteers. That's an extensive list, and it sounds like you got some good people that are dedicated to the cause for the right reasons.
Absolutely.
Well, guys, I appreciate you coming on the show and hanging out with us for a little while. Again, it's the RVA List. Brandon Terry, Jason Blankenship, overseeing the quarter and eighth mile portions of the RVA List. They run at Richmond Dragway. The first event is coming up this Saturday. Track goes live at, I think you said it was at 11 o'clock.
11 o'clock.
Track opens at 10, 11 o'clock, and the track goes live. First round is at 12:30. You got your chance to jump on the RVA List. Guys, I appreciate you making some time, especially on the short notice, and we look forward to keeping in touch through the summer, man.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us on.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks, guys. Good luck.
We'll see you now. There goes Brandon Terry and Jason Blankenship with the RVA List. Cool couple guys. They're doing a good thing down there in Virginia, and hard to argue with it, really,
Yeah, no, it's very cool. I will say it's a type of series that if I could find a way to run something like that, I definitely would be interested in doing it. It's pretty cool. But it sounds like they're trying to keep it, like I said, fairly low cost and having fun at the same time. So it's definitely pretty neat. I just can't believe it's racing season already.
Yeah.